move on to our panel discussions of the day. The first panel discussion is on partnerships that work, leveraging grassroots solutions. And for the panel, I am going to invite the panelists one by one on the stage, but first let me give you a short brief. Continuing that spirit, and in the next session, we focus on partnerships that work, leveraging grassroots solutions. This panel highlights how innovations from the ground, from small towns, social enterprises, and community movements are scaling impact across inclusion, livelihood, and accessibility. These are stories of persistence, partnership, and purpose. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished panelists who truly represent the spectrum of inclusion from the grassroots to the boardroom. Our first panelist is Mr. Mallikarjuna Aithya, is a serial social entrepreneur and development professional whose work has transformed the landscape of disability and entrepreneurship in India. As the founder of the inclusive Divyangjan Entrepreneur Association, IDEA, he has empowered over 1,875 entrepreneurs with disabilities through pioneering initiatives such as the Divyang Incubation Center, Divyang Hunar Atmanirbhar Network, and the Sugamya Delhi Abhiyan. So let us give a hand to Mr. Mallikarjuna Aithya. I now invite Mr. Prahlad Beniwal from Youth for Jobs Foundation, a passionate inclusion practitioner who works at the field level to connect rural youth with disabilities to skilling and livelihood. His work reflects the real heartbeat of this movement, inclusion that starts in villages and transforms lives. Our moderator for this session is Dr. Amanpreet Kaur, Deputy National Lead, Bajaj Finserv CSR, where she brings together strategic thinking, community engagement, and a strong commitment to public health and rural development. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Amanpreet Kaur, a dynamic leader who continues to demonstrate how corporate responsibility can drive inclusion and social transformation. We also have Ms. Sukhman Randhawa, who is currently leading partnerships and development financing for the United Nations Resident Coordinator's Office in India. Her role focuses on curating strategic partnerships for the UN systems in India with diverse stakeholders and driving development funding towards the 2030 SDG goals. Let's give a big hand to all the panelists. Should I call you my dear friend? Pavitra YS, founder and MD of Vindhya Infomedia. She has built an award-winning impact sourcing company that blends profitability with inclusive employment in IT and BPO sectors. For 19 years, she has empowered people with disabilities, women, and marginalized communities, creating a workplace rooted in dignity and financial independence. I had the personal opportunity to visit her in Bangalore, and I was really impressed by the kind of, not just the work, but the beautiful environment that she has created over there for people, those who work. And we had a real sumptuous meal with her also. Thank you. So back to the panelists and the moderator. Yeah. Any more? Okay. I'm sorry, there are some additions. So we also have Tanya Chatterjee, Head of Sustainability for NatWest Group India. She leads the organization's agenda on corporate social responsibility, college volunteering, and climate action. So welcome all of you, and please, I request the moderator to take forward the session.
Thanks, Ankita. Also for this session, please note Simran will be translating for Prahlad when he presents his work. Good afternoon, everyone. And in this panel that we're going to commence with, we will be attempting to ideate and deliberate on how grassroots innovation and solutions can actually give such quick fixes, and quite ingeniously. It'll help us see to respect and to treasure the local knowledge we have and celebrate it. So through today's discourse, we will see the power of solutions that are born due to unmet need of communities, how they can be models of scalability and learning, we will strive to highlight the concept of Jan Hitai, Jan Sahyogen, meaning through the community's welfare, we can reach the community's welfare through the cooperation of the community. And this phrase truly underscores the ethos of this panel, which is community driven innovation and collaborative effort. And before I ask my August panelists to start, I will just quote one very interesting example, which for me stands out as a grassroots innovation. So, the National Rural Health Mission introduced the concept of ASHA in 2005 and 6. But actually, the origins happened as a grassroots innovation. It started in Chhattisgarh as a project Mitanan. In Chhattisgarh, it was female friends. And that is how this concept, it was one of the inspirations for ASHA movement. And now it's acknowledged globally. It has international recognition. So that is the power how local solutions, how Jugaad innovations can actually transcend borders and become that big, and a movement as well. Should we start with you? Right. So we'll start with Malika Arjun, and in this panel, we've got a hybrid model. Some will be presenting and some will be directly interacting with. It'll be a little freelance. And Malika Arjun, while you present your work, I will also ask you to please talk about the initiatives that Sangeeta was talking about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. So first of all, let me thank and congratulate Zero Conference organizers and co-organizers. It's a wonderful convening. Zero Project led by Martin, an inspiring personality. Youth for Job, Meeraji, a role model in India for all of us. IBDN, Sunil Mishraji and Shabaniji's team, an industry face which is trying to do inclusion where nobody expected earlier. And this collaborative approach actually bringing so many solutions together at the global level is wonderful. I'm just coming from the Charcha, one of the largest convening that happens, where
I'll
all
just
of us...
interject.
Yeah.
We have 5 minutes per.
Yeah, I'm just
presenter.
completing.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say this sentence because more than 1,200 corporates and all got together, government agencies, discussing about the problems with Bharat. Now here I'm at Zero Project with the solutions. This is what all of us needed. So most of the problems that we discussed here, I'm sure we have solutions in the form of Zero Project. So now I'm going to briefly present a grassroots innovation in entrepreneurship from Bharat, which is ready for scale. Next, please. So in India, we always believe in Pancha Tattva. Everything is revolves around 5. So the pillar of this evolution is also 5 pillars. The model that I am briefly going to present is led by innovation, simple and adoptable, replicable, scalable, and recognized within a 4.5 years time. So the model has been built on co-created model, as you are seeing. Several partners like Hans Foundation, Saksham, Believe India believed in this, that let us build an inclusive ecosystem, which turned out to be very cost effective, and now partnered with governments both at the national and local level. And the POC is done and we are at the growth stage. And the model is very simple and adoptable. We have created a curriculum on NSQ framework of 300 hours around it, and this curriculum is key to the entire model, delivering accessible content and using storytelling and gamification as a tool to create this entrepreneur ecosystem is a USP. We tested the replicability of the model in various regions in India and various situations, worked out with almost 12 different categories of disabled. And this grassroots model is a cluster-based replicable model, which we call it as a DHAN. And this model is now scalable with various indicators. It is global in nature, and each component of the model could be replicable or scalable to the different level. And based on this, it got the recognition. So what this model has brought in the last 4.5 years, I just would like to brief that. We almost imparted training for 2,300 persons with disabilities. Out of that, 1857 PWDs have established businesses and micro businesses. 53% of them are from rural and aspirational district. 37% of the program component, or 1857, are women with disabilities set at various enterprises. And 40% of them are first generation entrepreneurs who never did business, but because of this program they could get into. Now we have models, SOPs ready for 12 different categories of persons with disabilities. Like if a particular category or a particular candidate comes in, what is that we need to do? So we did a survey out of these 1857, round about 600 people. They did a turnover last year of 11.3 million US dollars. If we look at their income, it's almost like average income is 300 US dollar. It starts from $60, the minimum the micro entrepreneur is earning, and $1128 some of the rural entrepreneurs and urban entrepreneurs are earning. Now this has converted into a network itself, which we call Dhan Network, where the more than 1,000 plus entrepreneurs are part of it. Next, please. So the entire crux of the model is around 3 Ds. The first one is Divyangjan Incubation Center. We had set up a incubation center on hub and spoke model, which does various activities. Then technology through Divyangjan portal, where all this data is captured, and their own network of cluster-based network called DHAN, Divyangjan Hunar Atmanirbhar Network. After 9 months of incubation, up to 2 years handholding happens through DHAN network, and every research now shows that if we can handle micro entrepreneurs up to 2 years, they can lead to sustainability. That's a reason why, with a success rate of 93%, people are still in the business and they are taking forward the business. So with single mission, we wanted, now India is the third largest economy, fourth largest economy, and in the next 2 years we are aspiring to be the third largest economy. That means only Germany, China and US are above us. So India, Bharat needs to create these global models, and we feel that unless until India becomes inclusive, so this is an area where India can become inclusive capital of the world by showcasing entrepreneurship and inclusive employment at the core of it. This is the crux of the model, and the details and other SOPs, anybody is interested, will be more than happy to share.
Thank you, Mallikarjun. Before I move on to Pavitra, one question I wanted to ask: how did this whole project, this whole program start? What was the genesis of it?
Great.
Was there a trigger, basically?
Yeah, so Miraji wrote a book, Yes, I Can. Probably I read that. And I'm a person with 88% of disability.
Yeah.
So where most of the people feel that is good for nothing. So I ended up creating several social enterprises, part of global movements. If I can do it, anybody else in the world can do it. Why not other PWDs in the same space? Why can't we do that? That was one of the trigger. Second thing is the failure of government programs. In spite of having good intent, funding and others, persons with disabilities were not entering into the skilling centers.
Yeah.
There were several challenges related to employment. So when we did this Divyangjan aspiration study to find what is that persons with disabilities, what are their dreams, where do they want to take it forward, 22 different trends have emerged. Those trends encouraged us to really create an ecosystem on an entrepreneurship basis. So that was a trigger point which led to this.
That was very well answered. Actually, the point that you made, I think Pavitra is the best fit to take it up. Pavitra, while you talk about the trailblazing efforts that you've done with Vindhya E-Informatics, I would also want you contemplate and let me know that how through your context has changed from when you started. How have you been able to maintain the core values? I mean, when we talk about solutions becoming bigger, they sort of lose that very ethos. So how has that worked out for you? And your work, a little more of that.
Thank you, Aman, and very good afternoon to all of you. You rightly said the context has changed, but the core has not changed. The core and the purpose of Vindhya has always been to create a platform for people where there is, through work, they get dignity, and we ensure that people who are excluded in the society are mainstream. So Vindhya is actually a for-profit organization, and we believe in creating employment for people for the strength, for the abilities they have. Vindhya works with 9 different types of disabilities across the organization. We are at 2,600 people, and we have centers across India, and we do have people coming from across 28 states and working for us. What we decided to work on is we are only going to be that enabler with technology who can ensure that people do not go back without the dignity and the respect they deserve. So we actually provide services for our customers both in the voice and the non-voice areas. So we are the help desk, we are the ambassadors for a lot of our customers who other than people who really value these opportunities, and that's how we brought business and impact together. And we've been doing this for the last 19 years, primarily working to see how we can bridge the gap between the opportunity and the need which is available in the market today. So what we have done as part of Vindhya is we have ensured that we have tried to fix all of those gaps, right? One is just not, considering people at an entry level job, right? Not lowering the bar, but widening the gate. Trying to, encourage people to just come, showcase their strength, and also ensure that they grow in the system. So we have people today across the managerial positions as well who are leading a team of 50, 60 and 100 plus people who are with disabilities and managing very serious process. When I say serious process, we work for banks, we work for insurance companies, we process more than 300 crores of loans for our banks, and this is done by our set of people who are sitting and doing all the verifications, validations, identifying people, talking to them in 13 different Indian regional language, and ensuring the customer gets what they want, right? And as a part of this, we have created our own ecosystem. So we know that people who come from different parts of India do need a space. So we've created accommodation space so people live with us. And we also, had a beautiful learning in the beginning of our entrepreneurial journey when we felt that we do not have too many jobs when we started. We had to really work hard towards it. And this is a story where we told our people, I'm so sorry, I think we don't have anything. This was in our first year, and people stood by us. They said, ma'am, what we need is a space to live and a job to get that respect, right? We just started creating that, and our conference room became an accommodation space. So today we have accommodation for people who come from different parts. We have a kitchen. Earlier people who went back home got a lot of food, so we shared. Today we have a kitchen which provides all the 3 meals in a day. And I'm a mother, so I understand how important it is to create that support system. Our people today who didn't know what is tomorrow have families. They've expanded their families. So we have created all the ecosystem which is around. So the core is to ensure that we enrich their lives, and we continue to work towards it while not compromising the end delivery, and that's where the growth has happened.
That was quite interesting. Actually, because you were mentioning about partnerships in this sector that we are in, and there's a very unique catch-22 situation which has sort of come up. So there are people looking for jobs, and then there is availability of jobs. But then there's a big this thing which says there's paucity of jobs. Naturally, there is some unsaid gap which is in between. This situation, does it, and because you are catering to leaders and everything, how do you look at it? What are your thoughts on it, and how do you actually look at it?
So what we look at is, how do I bring in the talent which is available with the partners? See, without partners, without Youth for Jobs, CI, and other partners who are here, we don't exist. I think it is impossible for me to do this alone. I think that's what I want to acknowledge, because when I started the journey, these are the set of partners who actually stood up and said that we do have people who are looking for opportunities, and we do need people who can actually bridge this gap. And that's where I think partnership plays a very, very critical role. I think what is happening is, there is definitely a lot of jobs which are available. A lot of corporates want to employ. I think there is no deficit of need. I think what we are trying to constantly look at is how do we map these jobs to the real jobs which is available. And that's where the partnership plays a very, very critical role. Thankfully, all the partners now have come forward. We have been working, I think, more than 1,000 plus people from Youth for Jobs have come and have been working with us. And all I can say is, I think it is the understanding of the job which is on the ground than just looking at the job descriptions. I feel that we have to go beyond it to ensure these partnerships work, and ultimately we achieve the goal of creating employment.
Yeah, so probably what I take away from that is a thorough job mapping with customization, and also I think sensitization of the employers also, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, I think more than sensitize, I think the community is extremely, extremely helpful in ensuring that we learn everything. They've taught us how to talk, how to, work with them and everything. But the other fact is, a lot of primarily in the leadership, I think it's important that, the managers, the senior leaders also get to understand how to work, not to judge, and not to, it is more than judging. I think it is that fear. I think we all have to come out of the fear of asking questions, how it means to work with each other, and just make it a way of life, right?
And that is the beauty of inclusion. Yes. Thank you, Pavitra. That was very interesting. We'll move to Tanya now. Tanya, it's quite commonplace now that we know that NatWest is works with in the inclusion space, in the disability space, and NatWest is working at the grassroots level for creation of micro entrepreneurs who are persons with disabilities. I want to hear how that is panning out. What made you start that? Why did you look at inclusion? And what's the program that you're rolling out?
Sure. So NatWest, of course, as an organization, we're a financial services institute. We have about 18,000 colleagues spread across 3 cities, Bangalore, Chennai, and Gurgaon. My role, I've done different roles, but when I came into corporate social responsibility, I was very clear that a large part of the CSR money needs to go into empowerment, building livelihoods and providing opportunities for different segment of people to build their livelihood. So there is economic equity in the system. It all started from the interest on ensuring how do we support PWD entrepreneurs. Now, why entrepreneurs? I have been an HR professional myself. I have been into DEI. And every time, although it's very evident that we know that India is losing out about 4 to 7% of its GDP because our PWD talent is not employed, which is a big number. However, corporates like us and many others fail to employ them. So either we don't know where to find them, or we don't know how to evaluate them. We don't know how to build in equity into the system of evaluation. And that becomes a barrier in ensuring we recruit and grow talent from the PWD segment. And it made me think that one PWD employment will change one life. However, one entrepreneur can actually change a complete value system, supply chain system. And it can almost at least minimum 3 to 10 productive users can, emerge out of it. So when I look into the work, Pavitra, you are doing, and I hear not, for profit, that gives me immense belief that there are many within our country who would do something like this. So everyone cannot be a Pavitra and her team. Everyone cannot be Shrikant Bolla from Bollant Industries with 100 crores and above turnover. What happens to micro entrepreneurs? So this project that we are doing, and of course I reached out to Sarbani from CII. We are doing for Tamil Nadu. 100 micro entrepreneurs are being trained. So they're already micro entrepreneurs. We have sourced them from the local community and the region within Tamil Nadu, and enhancing and amplifying their skills, their digital literacy skills, their financial ability and management skills, their understanding and access to schemes, credit, and various financial instruments. And also leadership and sales skills, and how to get market ready. So that helps. It's a complete training program for 100 entrepreneurs. What I understand of the demography, if 70% of them are women that are available, right? 50%, 92% have revenue of 1 lakh to 25 lakhs. 50% of them are running their entrepreneurship business for 1 to 5 years, which means they have sustained. So that's the ecosystem we are talking about. So it should be easy for us. Of course, we met some challenges because it is not easy to be able to convince every PWD entrepreneur the need for learning, education, which will help amplify their business. But we are on the journey. Hopefully by March 2026, we'll be able to see successful 100 PWD entrepreneurs trained and ready to scale their business. So that's the bit.
Yeah. Just a follow-up question. When
Yeah.
you talk about micro entrepreneurs, what are the
What kind?
Yes.
Yeah. So micro entrepreneurs for us, it will be people in small retail business. They would also be in IT-enabled businesses. They would also come from, they're doing beauty and wellness kind of products. There could be small agri-businesses that they are into. So a variety of stuff, really. Yeah.
Right. So basically, what already exists, finding that,
Yeah,
and then upskilling
that's right.
and sort of catering to that gap.
Correct. And food and beverage also, that's a big one actually.
Okay.
So it's a widespread. They have found their niche. They know where they want to make the mark.
Right.
They have thought about the business. But can we scale them and help that get amplified so that they can earn more and create more jobs, not only for themselves, but for others?
So, Tanya, when we talk about projects such as these, where
Yeah.
micro entrepreneurship is being looked at, do we also look at, do we set any parameters as to by when will we start tapping their income increase by a baseline, or by what percent? Do we also have those things in mind?
Yeah, so obviously we'll need to do an impact assessment. But right now, the first year has been all our energies focused on getting the right entrepreneurs and giving them access to the skill development. Yeah.
Yeah, that is one thing that I have come to understand, that when you work in the space of disability and then when you work at the grassroots, there is certain breathing space. There is a waiting period that you need to give
Yeah.
for the project or the partner or anything to bloom, for it to take some shape, form that is needed. And yeah, that was quite insightful as to how NatWest looks at the micro entrepreneurship model.
And if I can just mention,
Yes,
Amanpreet, I'm not too sure how many of you are aware. Currently, as we speak, T20 World Cup cricket for women, for the blind, is being played now in India. I was there yesterday watching the India-Australia match. India won by 209 runs. And when we were there looking at, they play the game, phenomenal. Phenomenal. And that's, the playground was a great example of equity. The rules of the games have changed. The way they play has changed, but it's still a game of cricket.
Yeah, that's very well put.
So that was brilliant. So yeah, sitting in India, I'm still hoping India will win, but let's see what happens in the final.
Right. But yeah, that's a very interesting thought actually, and a learning that rules have changed, but the game is same. So that, and as I look to my left, we are talking across borders now. With me I have Sukhman, and she will be presenting. Yes, Sukhman will be presenting. And Sukhman, while you walk us through your presentation, I would also want to know what approach is used when you're talking about partnerships and collaborations across borders. What is it that the organization looks at? Can someone help me with the...
So very good afternoon, everyone. I know this is a tough time, post lunch. But unfortunately, why I wanted to make a presentation is because I have a lot of ground to cover, and I was told last minute that I have 5 minutes only. But I want to do a little bit of justice to the work that the UN does. So, is it moving as well?
Yes, here.
Okay, great. So just to give you a context, I'm with the UN Resident Coordinator's Office, which is, the UN Resident Coordinator's Office coordinates the UN presence in India. The UN has a very vast presence in India. It has 26 agencies working across thematic areas. And the Resident Coordinator's Office coordinates the system-wide presence along in partnership with the Government of India. And I lead partnerships and development financing from the Resident Coordinator's Office. So just to tell you the context I'm situated. So I have a little bit of a system-wide view on what we are doing as a system. Today, of course, focusing on disability inclusion. So we all know in this room that the umbrella we work under is the UN Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities. But to make the UN more fit for purpose and to ensure that we also walk the talk, the Secretary General announced the UN Disability Inclusion Strategy in 2019. The strategy is particularly focused on driving disability inclusion across programs and operations of the UN. By operations, we mean HR, procurement, admin, accessibility, and ICT systems. And it has the strategy, I don't want to go into detail because I'm sure many in the room are familiar with it, but it has 4 core areas and 14 indicators across programs and operations. And leadership, accountability of leadership and championing of disability inclusion by the leadership is highly encouraged in the UN system. I also want to draw your attention to one of the cross-cutting indicators, which is indicator 5, which talks about the meaningful engagement of persons with disabilities across all stages of programming, design, implementation, monitoring, evaluation. So that we follow very seriously. I also want to point out that we at the UN Resident Coordinator's Office have a disability rights officer, Ms. Aarti Thakur. She's absolutely brilliant, so you all should connect with her post this session. And she leads a lot of our coordination work on disability inclusion because India, of course, like I told you, has many UN agencies working collectively to address this cause. I also want to draw the attention of the audience to the Global Disability Fund. This was earlier a partnership under which some of you may be familiar, the UN Partnership on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which is a fund under something called the Multi-Partner Trust Fund umbrella, which is held out of New York. But this fund essentially connects UN entities, governments, organizations of persons with disabilities, and civil society to work on systemic and sustainable inclusion changes across the ecosystem. So in India, we particularly, just to give you a snapshot of what we've done through leveraging this fund, we worked with the National Institute of Urban Affairs to mainstream disability and gender in SDG 11 through local partners. So we've built the capacities of OPDs, but also of duty bearers, particularly smart city officials. We've developed knowledge products. We've also looked at disability disaggregated indicators, inclusion of these indicators in the National Indicator Framework. We've also undertaken a study on the legislative gap analysis of rights of persons with disabilities. And very interestingly, a framework on assistive technology, which again, my colleague is very much involved in. And we also had this challenge on looking at smart solutions, which are inclusive. And we had a huge call for challenge and a great partnership with the ministry on this, where such innovations were awarded. Moving forward, the UN system particularly, I wanted to give you a few instances of how the UN system is working on the disability inclusion space. Primarily, our work is around these 5 categories that you can see. And I'm going to quickly dive deep, not deep, but very minutely into these areas. But In the research space, one of our agencies, UNICEF, is doing a study on how people with disabilities are able to, persons with disabilities are able to access social protection, leveraging the unique disability ID, the UDID. Of course, there are some challenges that they faced at the grassroots level, and here we really encourage grassroots organizations to come and partner with us to solve these challenges from the lens of the community that we're serving. Then capacity building, this sort of focuses on empowering both right bearers and duty bearers for OPDs and civil society. We had a huge consultation this year to support India's voluntary national review. So what the voluntary national review is, India gives an update on its commitment to how it is achieving, how far it is in its journey of achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we had a very focused consultations with grassroots organizations in 11 states and national dialogues at the UN House focused on disability inclusion to hear the voices from the ground. We are also working with government on emergency responses, looking at disability inclusion at the intersection of climate and disaster. So we're working with NDMA, with Goa SDMA, with the National Disaster Response Force and so forth, covering areas like mock drills, and tabletop exercises and so forth. We are also engaged, and also we want to strengthen this component with the private sector. We are working through workshops and training with their HR focal points on strengthening disability inclusion into or mainstreaming it in private sector hiring practices as well. And we've conducted around we've conducted workshops with 50 to 60 private sector organizations. And then there is
Sukhman,
the
we'll need to pace it up. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So there's a lot I do want to mention. We also did this amazing Global Ability Photography Challenge with UNESCO and Youth for Jobs. So I wanted to highlight that, which showcased creative expression and lived experience of persons with disabilities. But there's a lot of work we are doing using tech as well. Just very quickly, UNFPA has these labs in the state of Orissa, where adolescents with disability are given a safe space to engage in the virtual space. And then lastly, very quickly, I want to end this that we are looking at cross-sector, cross-border partnerships, like you had mentioned as per your question. And we just did this engagement with at the Purple Fest in Goa, where we looked at disaster resilience risk reduction practices across the global south. We invited participants. So the UN Resident Coordinator's Office, along with other agencies, facilitated this. We had participations from Maldives, Bhutan, Thailand, and of course examples from India. Those examples are on your screen right now on what we did here from these country contexts, and we're taking some of these learnings forward. So I'll stop here because I'm sorry this was like a very rapid response sort of situation, but I hope you get a fair amount of idea of how the UN system is collectively really putting its weight behind mainstreaming disability inclusion, both internally as well as with external partners. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sukhman.
Encourage you all to talk to Aarti, who is the disability rights focus and focal point, and she's doing some fabulous work for the UN system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sukhman. Very quickly, whatever you could pace through, it did bring about the point that collaborations across borders also are a very interesting piece to look at. And this now brings me to our last panelist, but the most interesting one for me, Prahlad. So Prahlad, grassroots fellow hai. He's a grassroots fellow, Youth for Jobs Initiative of Grassroots Academy, and he's the fellow there. That's the project that was initiated and was a pilot, and he is that fellow who's worked at the grassroots level, where he works with the community. And Prahlad बहुत famous है उनके innovative ideas के लिए. तो I will request Prahlad to please explain it. आप presentation से करेंगे? आपको जैसे कंफर्टेबल लगे. हाँ, प्रेजेंटेशन है. और जब आप बात करेंगे ना, तो अगर प्रेजेंटेशन में ना भी हो प्रहलाद, तो वो जो टर्म है ना, जुगाड़ इनोवेशन, जुगाड़, द क्विक फिक्स दैट वी फाइंड, इफ यू कैन टॉक अबाउट दैट. आपने कहीं भी कुछ नोटिस किया तो प्लीज बताइएगा. थैंक यू.
हेलो, नमस्कार सभी को. मेरा नाम प्रहलाद बेनीवाल है और मैं राजस्थान के करौली डिस्ट्रिक्ट के एक ग्रामीण एरिया है, मेरे गांव का नाम चंदीला है, वहाँ से बिलोंग करता हूँ. मैं पिछले 3 साल से और अपन के ग्रासरूट प्रोग्राम के यूथ फॉर जॉब फाउंडेशन के प्रोग्राम में काम कर रहा हूँ. और मैं दोनों पैरों से दिव्यांग हूँ और बचपन में ही मैं मेरी माँ के जन्म के देने के बाद लगभग 4 महीने बाद ही मैं दिव्यांग हो गया था।
Greetings to everyone. My name is Prahlad. I'm from Rajasthan. I have disability, and right from birth I have disability. 4 months after being born. 4 months after being born.
यस, मैं ग्रेजुएशन कंप्लीट किया हुआ है और मेरी प्रारंभिक शिक्षा जो मैंने ग्रहण की है बड़ी मुश्किल से मैंने मेरी शिक्षा को ग्रहण किया है, क्योंकि ग्रामीण एरिया में ऐसे स्कूल्स नहीं होते थे। और बचपन में मेरी माँ जब बीमार रहती थी और जैसे ही मेरा विद्यालय में स्कूल में दाखिला कराया तो मेरे पिताजी मेरे को अपने कंधे पे बैठा करके और मेरे को स्कूल छोड़ के आते थे लगभग 1-1.5 किलोमीटर। तो इस तरीक़ा से मैं धीरे धीरे पढ़ता रहा और मैंने 8वीं कक्षा मेरे गांव के विद्यालय से किया है।
I have completed my education till class 8 from a school in my village itself. My mother was not keeping very well during those days. My father would carry me on his shoulders and take me to the school. And he's also done his graduation, and he's talking about the systems of the schools in the villages.
So basically, the point he was making was the schools were inaccessible. So that whole setup made it very difficult for him to gain his primary education.
Yes. इसके बाद मैंने ग्रेजुएशन कंप्लीट करने के बाद 2012 में मुझे गवर्नमेंट जॉब में मुझे जॉब मिल गया था मेडिकल डिपार्टमेंट में। मैंने 6 साल वहाँ पर मैंने काम किया था एज ए LDC पोस्ट पर, क्लर्क की पोस्ट पर। कुछ परिस्थितियों के कारण वो जॉब मेरे हाथ से छूट गया था, कुछ ऐसे दिक्कत आई थी तो मैंने उस जॉब को मेरे छोड़ दिया था।
I got a government job and have worked as an LDC, that is a clerical post, but due to certain difficulties I had to leave my job.
2022 में मेरे एक दोस्त हैं तो उन्होंने मुझे हमारे जो यूथ फॉर जॉब फाउंडेशन है इसके बारे में उन्होंने मेरे को बताया था। 3-4 साल में मेरे घर पे मैं बिल्कुल जॉब छोड़ करके और मैं घर पे ही था, तो जो मेरे दोस्त थे उन्होंने बताया यूथ फॉर जॉब फाउंडेशन है और एक संस्था इस तरीक़ा से PWDs के लिए एक काम करता है, तो अगर आप इसमें करना चाहो तो कर सकते हो।
So in 2022, my friend shared about Youth for Jobs Foundation and that they work with people with disabilities, and he shared that if I'd like to work, I can work with them.
Yes. मैंने 2022 में मैंने इसको ज्वाइन करने के बाद मैंने सोचा मैंने कि यूथ फॉर जॉब में PWDs के लिए हम काम करते हैं। फिर मैंने जो हमारे सीनियर्स थे उनसे पूछा कैसे काम करना है कैसे नहीं करना है। PWDs हम खुद हैं, हम खुद दिव्यांग हैं, खुद दिव्यांगों के लिए हम कैसे काम कर सकते हैं। इस तरीक़ा से हमने सीखने के बाद जो कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग बातें हमको मुझे लगी इसमें, तो मैंने सोचा मैंने कि नहीं हम खुद दिव्यांग हैं और दिव्यांगों के लिए काम करेंगे तो काम करना है। मुझे इंटरेस्टिंग लगा ये काम।
During this, me being a PWD myself, I felt that I should also work for PWDs, and I discussed this with my seniors too as to what more we can do.
सबसे पहले यूथ फॉर जॉब फाउंडेशन का जो हमारा मुख्य उद्देश्य था इसका प्रत्येक दिव्यांग को समाज की मुख्य धारा में लाने का एक जो हमारी संस्था है यूथ फॉर जॉब ये काम कर रही है। तो ये बात सुन करके मुझे बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग हुआ और सोचा कि नहीं अब इसी संस्था मुझे यूथ फॉर जॉब में ही काम करना है। जो PWDs होते हैं वो ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में होते हैं। मैं जानता हूँ, मैंने देखी है ये हालत देखी है कि क्या होता है। PWDs को एक कम्युनिटी में इस तरीक़ा से देखते हैं कि ये दिव्यांग है कैसे काम करेगा, कहीं काम किसी काम का नहीं है। तो फिर मैंने जो ठानी थी कि नहीं मुझे जो यूथ फॉर जॉब फाउंडेशन है, यूथ फॉर जॉब फाउंडेशन के जो हमारे CEO मैम है मीरा मैम, इन्होंने जो उद्देश्य बनाया है उस उद्देश्य को सोचने के लिए मैंने ये ठाना कि नहीं मुझे यूथ फॉर जॉब में रह करके और दिव्यांगों के लिए मुझे मदद करनी है और मुझे जो मैं कर सकता हूं उसके लिए करूंगा, लेकिन दिव्यांगों को हम समाज में की मुख्य धारा में लाने का काम करेंगे।
Most of the PWDs belong to villages, and I found out that I would like to work with Youth for Jobs and work to bring PWDs to the mainstream and to the mainstream industries, and also make it an inclusive environment for them.
प्रहलाद, मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछती हूँ। अभी आप यूथ फॉर जॉब्स के साथ अभी ग्रास रूट फेलो की तरह आप अभी क्या काम कर रहे हैं?
हम लोग अभी ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में मोबिलाइजेशन का कम्युनिटी मोबिलाइजेशन है। सबसे पहले हम कम्युनिटी मोबिलाइजेशन करते हैं, तो वहाँ पर जो आंगनवाड़ी सेंटर्स होते हैं वहाँ पर जाकर उनसे मिलते हैं, और जो ग्राम पंचायत के अन्य कार्मिक होते हैं, गवर्नमेंट कार्मिक होते हैं, उनसे मिल करके हम PWDs का डाटा ले करके और उनको हम लोग डोर टू डोर विजिट करते हैं दिव्यांगों के PWDs के लिए। हम ये मुख्य काम हमारा ये होता है।
So I asked him that what is it that he's currently doing with as a grassroots fellow with Youth for Jobs Foundation. What he's saying is a very interesting point. He's saying that he liaisons with all the government stakeholders at that level, at the grassroots level, at the block level, and help them get whatever schemes or whatever things that they need to make things accessible, or any accommodations or any concessions that are needed. That is the key work that is being done, and that's what I wanted. And data collection, data validation, having the correct data of persons with disability at that level. So that is of very, very important. It's very significant because those key things are missing at the very base level. So that's why I just wanted him to highlight that also.
कम्युनिटी के साथ मिलकर के हम जो दिव्यांगों के लिए सोचते हैं कि दिव्यांग कुछ नहीं कर सकते, तो हम उनको अवेयरनेस और उनके बारे में उन चीज़ों को बताते कि देखो, जब मैं दिव्यांगों में पूरे ज़िले में मैं ये काम कर रहा हूँ, तो ये दिव्यांग है, इसको आप लोग काम के लिए जो पेरेंट्स काउंसलिंग भी होती है, पेरेंट्स काउंसलिंग करते हैं कम्युनिटी के साथ मिलकर के। सभी एक जो चौपाल जो होते हैं वहाँ पर हम लोग बैठ करके दिव्यांगों को इकट्ठा करके कम्युनिटी के साथ ये चीज़ बताते कि नहीं, आप लोग इनको आगे आने दीजिए, आप लोग इसको हम जो चाहते हैं इनको जो इस तरीक़ा से देखते हैं, हीन भावना से PWDs को देखा जाता है गाँवों में, बहुत जगह हमने देखा है। तो उस चीज़ को हम लोग करते हैं कि भाई देखो, आज मैं खुद का वहाँ एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ, जहाँ किसी ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में जो चौपाल बैठे होते हैं, जो पंचायत वगैरह बोलते हैं, उनको खुद मैं एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ। आज मैं समाज में हूँ, मैं समाज में मेरी सोसाइटी में, मेरे परिवार में आज वो इज्जत है। मैं जहाँ कहीं भी गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसेज में मैं जाता हूँ, तो ये चीज़ मैं उनको बताऊँगा कि आज आप मेरे साथ चलिए, आपके जो कोई भी काम होंगे, आपको गवर्नमेंट, हमारे डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर्स हैं या SPs हैं या पुलिस, कहीं भी काम हो, आपका नहीं हो रहा है, आप मेरे से बोलिए, मैं दिव्यांग हो करके मैं आपका काम फ़ोन से कराऊंगा।
So again, very, very interesting. What he's saying is now, because of all the links that he has, he is able to facilitate things for others, people who are without disabilities. They contact him, and he's able to do that along with, of course, persons with disabilities. That's the empowerment, and that actually, I think we'll finish this panel. Thank you, Prahlad. That actually beautifully brings up that how grassroots connections can be leveraged, and resilience can be built, and partnerships can be built. And this panel actually brought diverse stakeholders to actually carry forward that message. Any closing remark, one closing remark from any of you? Yes.
I do want to say, just to appreciate it, that what the importance of role models in these sectors. People need to see that what is the capability, what you can strive for. I think that आप बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हो. I mean, I personally feel it's like absolutely wonderful to give that encouragement.
Thank you. So we'll conclude this panel. Thank you for your patient listening. And I don't think we've time for questions. Yes, she's saying leave. She's saying thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
It's going to take me 1 minute to come up to you.
Other
A
panelists.
very, very interesting and energizing session. I mean, I would love to say it's energizing, but I can see people nodding off. So I'm going to request everybody to break for 10 minutes. However, please summarize this session first. For me, the takeaways from this session has been that there is a thriving ecosystem of people with disabilities, those who are entrepreneurs. Number 2, inclusion is a leadership agenda which has to be set from the top. And number 3, that if we do not include people with disabilities in the economy, then what happens is that we are going to be losing 4 to 7% of our GDP. So I guess that it's time that we really worked hard on including people with disabilities in our economic agenda everywhere, like you said, and ensure that we also become tax-paying members of society rather than making you people pay more taxes to provide us with the dolls. Thank you so much. Please give a big hand to the panelists. We break for just 10 minutes for coffee and tea. Please come back in 10 minutes. We are really running late.